Um, so ROC USA was, well, let me go back. The New Hampshire Community Loan Fund was the first nonprofit, well, I think they are the first, to convert a park to a cooperative. That happened in 1984. Today, 136 of the 600 manufactured home parks in New Hampshire are cooperatives. So they've been doing this for a long time. They're the ones that inspired us and a lot of other nonprofits to do this business. ROC USA was spun off as its own nonprofit corporation in 2008. There are currently 270 resident-owned communities in 18 states. These are all under the auspice of ROC USA. So that includes the cooperatives in New Hampshire, but it's also in other states. So these are all resident-owned communities that have some affiliation with ROC USA.
Didn't that just increase in numbers?
Yeah, we get, if you look, see, you get the network news, they're picking up, like, they're picking up a couple every month.
Okay.
2-3 months, something
Yeah,
like
I
that.
thought we were at like the 276 or somewhere in there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they took this off the ROC USA website. So they made this is like in the last week, I think, or 2 weeks, I think they picked up another 5 or 6. In some of these, not all of these, right? Some of these ROC USA Capital is the lender. And I think with all of you, I'm looking at who's on here, with the exception of Woodlawn, because you don't have permanent financing yet at Woodlawn, but everybody else has a loan or mortgage from ROC Capital. So they are the lending arm of the ROC USA network. And if you stay on the line tonight and attend the next session with Emily, she's going to tell you a little bit more about like how that deal is structured, like what some of the things that you should know about that arrangement with ROC Capital. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to cut myself off there. And finally, what is NCF's role in all this business? ROC USA has, geez, I hope I'm right here. I think they have 12, maybe there's more affiliates now. It's one of these things I can't keep up with. Their website says they have 12 affiliate nonprofits across the US, and NCF is one of those affiliates. And so we have a network agreement. Everybody who's one of those affiliates has an agreement with ROC USA. And it's a long, long, long contract. Essentially, it says, here's what we're responsible for. Here's what we can do and we can't do as an affiliate. Has the benefits and privileges and a bunch of covenants in there. NCF is under contract with ROC USA and with each of you to provide support to each of you for the term of your loan. So if you have a loan from ROC Capital, and you all do, you have a contract with ROC Capital, right? Because there are loan terms. You have a contract with us. We have to, excuse me, we have to provide technical support, as we call it, or support to you for the term of the loan that you have with ROC Capital. And in turn, we have an agreement with ROC to provide that support. That's like a three-way arrangement here. So currently we have contracts with 10 resident-owned communities in Minnesota and 3 in Wisconsin. I want to make a couple other clarifications here because there's sometimes confusion about our role. There are limits to our authority. Essentially, we don't have any. We do not have an ownership interest in any of you, right? There is no financial or any other type of ownership interest that we have. We are not a lender, except for some of the homes that we bought and put in parks, in which case we lent to the individual to buy that home, and we have a contract with them. But otherwise, we have no financial interest in any of your communities. So you should think of us as a coach. And at times we're we have to function as what I would call as a compliance officer that ensures that you adhere to the terms of the loan agreement that you have with Rock Capital. So a lot of like behind the scenes time we spend is being in compliance with the terms of your loan agreement and the contract we have with ROC USA to provide you with that support. So ultimately, the point I want to make is your lender has all the authority, right? You have a mortgage with a lender. You have a loan agreement with the lender, which spells out the terms. And a lot of times we're the loan servicer. We're there to make sure that we know that you're in compliance with the terms of your loan agreement. Sounds kind of technical and kind of cold, but I mean, that's the reality of the contract that we have also. The flip side of that, of course, is a lot of the support we do with boards of directors and residents, and you call us with questions and concerns and problems. And those times we're more like a community organizer. So we wear two hats, depending on who we're working with. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now so that I can answer any questions that you might have about all the stuff I just said. Actividad.
So for the last 2 years, we had to pay into the state for taxes. And you had
Income
said that-
tax? Well, that's news to me, but why did that happen?
I don't know, you tell me. It came out in our audit and we had to pay $600 2 years in a row.
You know, sometimes, you know, what I'm in most cooperatives, and I believe this applies to housing cooperatives too, if you have income that is not derived from services to your members, that's taxable income. So that applies to like almost all cooperatives, right? If you're realizing some income from some other kind of business that does not provide a service to your members, then it's taxable income. So I'm wondering if there was some service some income you received that wasn't earned income, right? That was, I'm not sure. Maybe it was a grant.
I'm thinking it's from the grants from the 2 years worth of monies that came in for the storm shelter. And because city's management didn't apply that properly.
Right, so it could have been an accounting error that they made, yeah.
Yes, and the unaccounted money. So once that corrects itself after this month, I think we should be on track because we never used to have to pay.
Yeah, and I used to work for many years with agricultural co-ops, and they had to keep track of all the transactions that involved members versus non-members, because all the income they received from non-members was taxable income. So of course, they want everybody to be a member. Any co-op wants everybody to be a member because then the income is not taxable.
So could that be the 6 that we have? I think there's 6 left that are non-members.
Well, that could be 2. That's a good question, Tividad.
So we should look at that.
I should talk to the CPA and see if that's the case. If they're tracking non-member income and if that's taxable income. It's a good question.
I just wanted to comment under the heading of who's responsible for what and who owns what in the cooperative, et cetera. I just want to point out to newer co-ops, it was a surprise to me when we first became a co-op to understand that the city wasn't responsible for paying for our snowplow towing in the winter for our roads and stuff. Don't ask me why I didn't figure that out before we became one. I probably wasn't around to see that it wasn't the city who was plowing. But somehow I thought the city city services should support us. And it was an awakening to realize we're on our own and that's it. And that's just the way that it is. So
yeah,
now I'm fine. It doesn't bother me. But at the time I was like, well, but wait a minute.
That's it. I mean, that's a good point, Pat, because with few exceptions, there are a few exceptions where co-ops were developed and the city is, providing support for infrastructure. They consider it owned owned city infrastructure. But in almost all cases, they consider you private property. And as a private property owner, you're responsible for everything, right? It stops, their support stops at your boundary line.
Right.
So whether it's above ground or underground, it belongs to you.
Right.
And you're responsible for all of it. Yes.
When you think about it, you're responsible for plowing your own driveway if you're a legitimate, not legitimate, if you're a traditional homeowner.
Yes.
So therefore, that's what our streets are, our driveways. So therefore, we would be responsible for our own.
Surprisingly enough, we came to find out when we had a water break underneath the sidewalk as to which half of the sidewalk was considered the city and which half was considered ours. And even though the water main break still continued to run after we turned off every possible bit of water, the city still claimed that it was our fault. So we still had to pay it. But they own half and we own half, which is a surprise.
I'm looking to see if there's any other questions.
I was just going to say, are there any other surprises that people realized after becoming a co-op? Or even being on the board that, you know, was like, oh, wow, an aha moment that you thought, this is way bigger than ourselves.
An aha moment for me was, especially when we had to refinance to redo our infrastructure and everything, that I remember saying to Tom at one point, you know, we're never going to pay this off in our lifetime, are we? And, you know, we have a 30-year mortgage and whatever, but we're never going to pay this off before I'm dead or before anybody else here, except maybe the little kids. But that was you know, but it's just like making your own home payment. It's just something you pay every month. It's like paying rent to an apartment or whatever. It's an ongoing fact of life that you pay that. But that was an aha moment for sure.
I think as long as you have improvements that need to be made to the co-op, it's going to, there's probably no good reason to pay off your mortgage. I mean, because you have to refinance under most of your terms. So you have a 10-year mortgage, so you have to refinance every 10 years, and you're going to realize some equity, as I was trying to explain. So the value of your property increases, and whatever that amount is, you can take out in the form of a contribution to your reserves. So you get like cash in the bank, essentially, in the form of a reserve contribution that you could use to make improvements in your co-op. And that's what most people do, right? That's even what homeowners do. They refinance their mortgage because they want to build a new kitchen or bathroom or something, and they refinance and take the money and put it back in their home. So it's no different with you. I have heard of some co-ops in New Hampshire that paid off their mortgage because,
Yeah.
you know, they're over 30 years old now. So they had a 30-year mortgage, and, you know, there's a low interest loan and they paid it all off, and maybe they had money to make all their improvements to begin with. I'm not sure. But for most of you, I think you have improvements that you want to make that you want the money for, and you're just going to keep refinancing until you get it all done.
And we were one of the first ones to have a 30-year loan here in Minnesota. And then when we refinanced, we went to the 10 years. So, you know, having a 30-year loan that's fixed is not such a bad thing if you think about it. But now we're on the same level of, oh boy, we're going to look at refinancing in the next couple of years again, because that's our time to do that. And so getting prepared for that for the first time in a long time without having to do some type of infrastructure is going to be an eye-opener for a minute, right?
Yep.
But it's still nice to know that you go from $4.3 million to $5.1 million by adding a storm shelter and doing your infrastructure and having a safe place to live. It's a really good feeling.
I'm just looking here. The next session on financial health begins at 6:45. So as I mentioned, the presentation, all the slides that I have here is going to be up on our website at some point, or in YouTube, our YouTube channel. 6:45 tonight is financial health with Emily. And then tomorrow night at 6 o'clock is emergency preparedness with, I believe it's Julie Martinez. So if that's not on your calendar, it should be. Since we're pretty much wrapped up, and I want to give you guys a break, and because if you want to, I'm hoping you all go to Emily's session.
I'm gonna.
All right.
For sure.
Then I give you a little break, and you can take a breather so you're all ready for Emily at 6:45. How's that?
So what do you think, Carrie?
All really interesting. I'm still, I just keep learning more every session.
It's super fun.
Good.
Tomorrow night's one is really fun because some people don't even know what tomorrow night is about nationwide. So it's a really interesting thing. I can't wait to see how it's going to turn out.
Yeah,
Can
I
we
mean, we I'm at the county level, so we think a lot about emergency management, like sort of across our facilities, and but it's as a topic, it's quite a trip for sure. Yeah.
Are you attending tomorrow? That might be a big help if we have some questions outside of our own entities. So
I can try. What time is tomorrow night's at?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. I can try to make that. Yeah.
since you're with
But
the county.
everything so far is brand new and really informative. So I appreciate sort of all of the interaction and certainly the hosts as well. So thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks to all of you.
Can we stay connected as we are now and just come back? Or should we hang up?
I don't think so. I think, can you, Emily? 'Cause